John Wick Chapter 4 is the newest entry in one of my favorite franchises. It is directed by Chad Stahelski and it stars Keanu Reeves in one of his most impressive roles to date. I love the John Wick series a lot, so I was very excited for this movie. I've been waiting it for years now. And I gotta say that it lived up to all my expectations. And I gotta say, this is the longest entry in the franchise. It is the longest movie at almost 3 hours. So it packs a lot of stuff in it. I think it was originally gonna be two movies. So like chapter 4 and 5 were gonna be shot back to back, but they decided to make it into a super long movie. And I gotta say that everything in this movie works so well. And I'm really excited to talk about John Wick 4 because it is just impressive in so many fronts. So first, let me explain a little bit about the plot. So if you watch the other John Wick movies, you know how the story goes. Like, basically, he is a retired assassin who comes back into this world of assassins, of, like death and destruction that he worked so hard to escape. And after chapter 2, he got even deeper into that situation by putting a bounty on his head. Every assassin in the world was after him. And chapter 4 is a continuation of that story. So in chapter 3, he becomes injured at the end and he spends several months in rehabilitation with the Bowery King, which is the Laurence Fishburne's character in this movie. And in this one, he basically wants to take revenge on the Table, who is like the organization that controls all the assassins in the world. So in this movie, we follow him across the world, like trying to hunt down these figures until he comes to the realization that he can't go against everybody. And he comes up with a plan in order to, basically restore his freedom and be free from all these assassins trying to kill him. And that is a very oversimplified version of the plot. In reality, John Wick 4 has so many storylines, so many like elements that is balanced in this movie so well. It continues the story from previous characters and introduces some new ones, including Kane, which is one of the most badass characters I've seen in a movie. So it's this blind assassin who basically is like a real, well, not a real life because it's still an action movie. It's not, he doesn't have superpowers, but he is basically like Daredevil in this movie. And he basically fights people while adapting these fighting techniques to his blindness. And it just makes for some really great scenes. And I loved his character. I love some other characters, including Bill Skarsgård, who plays the main villain of the story, which is a Marquis. He's like the primary guy who wants him dead, and his character was also really well executed. And I gotta say, like the previous John Wick movies, I think Chad Stahelski has a really amazing style because this one continues like so many of the other elements from the other ones that make them really memorable. For example, the use of music. I think that the music is just fantastic. It is just really fun to listen to. It's a mix of like electronic, like hardcore music, and it fits the action scenes really well. Also, the lighting is pretty amazing. So John Wick 4 has some really interesting uses of blue and orange lighting that work so well in some scenes. And I gotta say, like, this movie just has a really amazing style. And over the course of those 3 hours, I felt like I just having the time of my life. I think this movie is really fun, and the style just like elevates that to the next level. And like always, the action is top notch. So this movie has so much action. I gotta say, like, if you haven't watched the John Wick movies, please watch this one and watch the other ones because it's just such an amazing ride from beginning to end. It's really violent, but it doesn't like focus too much on like the brutal violence of the scenes. It's more like classic, like kung fu fighting action. For example, the choreographed fights are just so amazing, so well choreographed. The way like John Wick fights, the way the stunt doubles in this movie basically like do one of the most dangerous jobs in the world while executing these scenes. Like, I don't even know how they pull off half of these scenes. They're just so amazing, and I gotta say, like, it's just impressive the work these stuntmen put into their work, stuntmen and stuntwomen, because there's so many scenes. For example, there's one where a guy falls down like a flight of stairs, like in the beginning, and also at the end there's a whole fight that goes on in like some stairs in Paris, and I just like, I was impressed, like, how could that happen? And then there's another scene where they are at the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, and they're fighting while they're like there's incoming traffic on the scene, and I just thought that scene was just so well executed. I have no idea if it's like a mix of CGI and real action, but if it is real action, I gotta say that is impressive. So yeah, the action is phenomenal. There's so many great scenes. There's another one where it's like a top-down view of the whole area, and John Wick is kind of like killing these people with a fire gun. Like, it's just so well executed. It felt kind of like a video game. Like, some of the scenes are kind of cheesy, but in like the best action movie kind of way. I feel like these movies kind of like revive my love for action movies, and I can't stress that enough how great it is executed. Speaking of that, I feel like this movie is very self-aware. I feel like the John Wick franchise kind of reaches a point where it's just self-aware of how ridiculously over the top the action is in some scenes. So it kind of plays with that, but I feel like it does it in a way that it doesn't like reach the next level like some of the Fast and Furious movies did. I feel like that movie that film franchise just went off the rails, but John Wick is kind of like more grounded, but it's still self-aware. I mean, that's why I feel like they are trying to contain the story within those parameters. and that is something I enjoy. I feel like that is something important to have in action movies, and I'm glad the John Wick franchise says like, okay, we are going over the top right now, but we're also going to keep it like within the same frame of, you know, just like hand-to-hand action, like guns, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, as always, the acting is pretty good. You know, the stunts are just amazing. I feel like that's the highlight of the movie. Some of the writing is kind of cheesy and has like some good moments. I feel like the acting, like the cast in this movie is just great. Like the actors like Laurence Fishburne, like Keanu Reeves are just really good. So that's a good thing in this movie. And now I'm going to talk a lot about the ending and some of the plot at the end, and I'm gonna go into spoilers from here. So if you haven't watched the movie, just skip towards the end because I'm gonna about to talk about spoilers. So what happens at the end is that John Wick challenges the villain, the Marquis, to a duel. So basically, by the rules of this universe, which are a lot, there's like a loophole where if he kills the Marquis and he gains a seat at the table, like they basically have to stop trying to kill him. So that's like in the second half of the movie, he tries to do that. He tries to prepare himself for this duel. And like before that, he gets hunted down by all these assassins. Like the Marquis tries to cheat. And in the end, John Wick wins. So he has this duel with Kane, the other character. And he basically wins. Like he kills the Marquis by another loophole, which basically grants him his freedom. And then he collapses on the flight of stairs. And that's where kind of like the movie cuts off. And now I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on and try to talk about some conspiracy that I think is true, that John Wick actually didn't die in that scene. Because the movie makes it apparent that John Wick died. So basically after that, it cuts off to a cemetery scene where he's basically like, it's his grave next to his dead wife from the first movie. And that's where the movie ends. But basically they make you realize like, hey, John Wick died at the end. And I feel like the ending, like if you take it as, you know, this is the end of John Wick, this is his death, I feel like the movie executes that really well. So he basically gains his freedom, and like both metaphorically and literally. But if you take it like as basically, yeah, he's pretty much not dead. I mean, if you don't see the body in Hollywood, it means that the character is not dead. Like it basically sets off, you know, John Wick 5 for 10 years from now. Basically, I think the director said that they were going to make John Wick 5, but they were going to worry about that later. They were not going to do it like soon enough. So I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. And we'll see if the next spin-off, the ballerina movie, is going to talk more about that. But I'm pretty sure he's not dead. I feel like they're just trying to set up the next thing, but taking a break from the John Wick franchise. Also, I have to add something that people mentioned. I feel like people said because of the conversation between the Bowery King and Winston at the end, that basically say, do you think he's in heaven or in hell? That's pretty much confirmation that John Wick is dead. But I feel like that's more tongue-in-cheek. I feel like he basically faked his death and is basically now in Cancun or something while he tries to hide, because even though he is exempt from the table's rules, I feel like there's still a lot of people in this universe who want to kill John Wick. So it makes sense for him to try to fake his death. I don't think it would be safe for him to just like live a normal life like he did in the first movie. So I will have to see what happens. I honestly think that the way that this is executed is really well. Again, I think it's just one of the greatest franchises of all time. I feel like this movie from beginning to end is just a journey. It is twice as long as the first one, and it just makes the best out of these characters. I feel like John Wick is just an amazing franchise. This is definitely the best entry in the series, and I just love it so much. So as a score, I'm going to give it a 90 out of 100. I just think it's just a great movie. It's really fun. It has some issues here and there, like overall the whole franchise, but I feel like it's a really enjoyable if you like action. So yeah, I enjoyed this movie so much, and those are pretty much all my thoughts for John Wick 4. So if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And also, I have a new Discord now. So if you like my videos, if you like watching me play games on Twitch, please join my Discord, because I'll put it in the description. But we're going to build a really cool community of like-minded people. You know, if you like games, movies, music, all that stuff, we're going to build that amazing community. So yeah, join my Discord, and I'll see you guys later. Have an amazing day, everybody.